Hello, and welcome to the Truly News Podcast. These podcasts are available every day starting at 7 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Central, 5 a.m. Mountain, and 4 a.m. Pacific. You can find your podcast at trulynews.org, on Spotify, and at Apple Podcasts. To support this program, go to trulynews.org or support us on Patreon. This program is produced by the Civic Health Coalition, a nonprofit, so contributions are tax deductible. We start each podcast with a brief introduction in case you are listening for the first time. If you have heard the introduction and want to skip ahead to the news, then go to 2 minutes and 35 seconds in the podcast. That is where we begin our coverage of today's news. This podcast was created as a way to provide you with the important news of the day. But more importantly, it was created as a new way to receive the news, a source of news that presents information in a positive and impartial way. Unfortunately, many headlines and articles usually focus on the negative aspects of the news. Sensationalism and controversy are used to grab people's attention. However, for us, the consumers of that news, that negative focus can impact our emotions and mental health by creating feelings of anxiety, agitation, and even anger. As an alternative, we review the news for you and filter it in a way that keeps you informed, but does so in a fresh, positive, and healthy way, the way that news was truly meant to be. Using many different news sources from many different types of news organizations, we also try to provide an unbiased and broad overview of the day's news. We don't skip any issues because it may not be good news. We simply present everything in a calm, rational, and objective way. The first part of the podcast focuses on the top headlines from over a dozen different news sources. Those news sources include the top-rated news channels, the largest newspapers from across the country, and the top visited news websites. After reviewing the major headlines, we then review a broad spectrum of news that covers the categories of science, technology, economics, health, and world events. Finally, we conclude our podcast with a feel-good news, which are stories from across the country that highlight the positive things that people are doing. The types of stories that inspire, uplift, make us feel positively connected to the rest of the world and to humanity. So, now that you understand the purpose of this podcast, we begin today's episode. Hello and good morning from the Front Range of the Rocky Mountains in beautiful Colorado. It is Monday, September 21st, 2020, and this is Truly News. I am your host, Jason Van Sickle. I hope that you had a great day yesterday and woke up feeling good this morning. If not, then we will try to help get you in a little better mood by the end of this podcast. As always, we start our podcasts with a look at the weather across the nation. Most places across the country will see clear skies today with little or no precipitation. There is some rain forecast for the northwest part of the country, mainly in western Seattle and the northwestern part of Oregon. There are also some scattered rain and thunderstorms forecasted for parts of Arizona, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and extending northeast through Nebraska, Minnesota, and Wyoming. The place in the country that will see the most rain is in the Gulf of Mexico area. Texas and Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi will all see rain and thunderstorms as a result of Hurricane Beta coming closer and predicted to make landfall by tomorrow morning. There is also rain forecasted along with scattered thunderstorms for most of Florida. In terms of the temperature, it'll be a nice day for most of the country with temperatures in the 70s. However, there will be temperatures above 100 degrees in Southern California and Southern Arizona, and the temperature will be into the 60s and even into the 50s for the far northwest of the United States and the northeast going from North Carolina up through Maine. And that is your weather outlook for this Monday, September the 21st. Now, let's take a look at today's top headlines. From the Reuters news agency, firefighters in the Pacific Northwest got a helping hand from cooler, damp weather in their battle against an array of wildfires this weekend. The Supreme Court will fly flags at half-staff for 30 days in honor and memory of Justice Ginsburg. Trump says that he will announce his U.S. Supreme Court nominee on Friday or Saturday, and he plans to announce a woman. And the U.S. Coast Guard closed the ports of Houston, Galveston, Texas City, and Freeport ahead of Tropical Storm Beta, which is expected to make landfall by Tuesday. From the New York Times, the first ever virtual Emmys were the perfect awards for our times. Schitt's Creek set Emmy records, while Watchmen and Succession helped lead HBO to a dominant night in a surreal evening that demonstrated how to pull off an award show during a pandemic. From USA Today, Jennifer Aniston extinguishes fire at Emmys, igniting controversy. The Emmys got off to a firing start on Sunday night, literally, when the morning show star Jennifer Aniston extinguished a small blaze in a trash can. It started when Aniston joined Jimmy Kimmel on stage at the Staples Theater in Los Angeles to present the award for lead actress in a comedy series. All the nominees joined virtually. In an effort to play up and make light of the importance of sanitation during COVID-19, Kimmel sprayed the envelope with Lysol before dipping it into a trash can and lighting it on fire. Aniston, armed with a fire extinguisher, proceeded to try to extinguish the small blaze so the duo could read the results. However, it took several tries to actually stop the fire. Here's a clip of that moment at the Emmys.
Now we just need to sanitize the envelope. We've got it here. I will spray it a lot.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a little extreme,
You
Jimmy.
never know where these accountants' hands have been.
Okay.
Now it goes into the basket, and we light it up. All right.
Yeah.
Wait 5 seconds.
5?
And then if you grab the fire extinguisher,
Oh, yes. Can I have this? Thank you. Okay. Oh, gosh.
once all the germs have been burned off,
Okay, here we go.
perfect,
Got it.
perfect.
Got it. Okay.
And
wait.
oh,
Got it.
all right, sanitized for your protection.
Yeah.
Now this is exciting.
Oh, shoot, hey.
We are delivering Emmys live to some of the winning nominees in their homes.
As you can hear, the fire reignited itself in the trash can several times as Aniston increasingly panicked and tried to use a fire extinguisher to put it out. In other headlines, NPR reports most young Americans prefer Biden, but Trump backers are more enthusiastic. NBC News reports that President Trump contradicts health officials on vaccine distribution timeline. Fox News reports woman suspected of sending ricin to White House has been arrested near Canadian border. And CNN reports more than half of states are reporting more new coronavirus cases as the U.S. nears 200,000 deaths. Those are your top headlines from across the country. To lighten things a bit, it is now time for our daily Top 5 Joke Countdown. From Reader's Digest at rd.com. For today, here are the top 5 animal jokes. At number 5, what do you call an alligator wearing a vest? Answer, an investigator, of course. Number 4, a friend recently told me I am upset that my email password has been hacked again. Yeah, that's terrible, I responded. I know, she said. It's the 3rd time that I've had to rename my cat. Number 3. In a Facebook page for beginning artists, one asked, "Any suggestions for painting dogs?" Another replied, "Wait until they're asleep." Number 2. What is the best way to cook a gator? Answer, in a crock pot. And our number 1 joke of the day, what do you call a penguin in the desert? Answer, lost. Well, we tried. For more jokes like that, you can visit Reader's Digest at rd.com. Now, on to today's science headlines. From Popular Science, West Coast wildfire smoke is visible from outer space. The wildfires have created columns of smoke as tall as 14,000 miles. From Scientific America, new discovery suggests Venus might host life. The unexpected atmospheric detection of phosphine, a smelly gas made by microbes on Earth, could mean the existence of life. Now, to explain the story a little bit, scientists are always looking for the possibility of life on other planets, and the likelihood, it is believed, is that we will find that life, if we do, in the form of very tiny living microorganisms. And so when they are searching planets for the possibility of life, what they do is they analyze the atmosphere, and they can do that just from the visible light coming from that atmosphere to see what kind of gases are in it. And so in this story, what they're reporting is that they believe phosphine has been detected on Venus, which could indicate that there is microorganisms on that planet producing that gas, because it is microorganisms on Earth that produce phosphine here. On to our next story. ABC News. New species of burrowing dinosaur found perfectly preserved. Paleontologists in China have discovered a brand new species of burrowing dinosaur that dates back an estimated 125 million years. The fossils were found perfectly intact and uninterrupted, suggesting to scientists that the animals were trapped by a volcanic eruption while they rested at the bottom of their burrows. And from ScienceTechNews.com, hints of fresh ice have been discovered in northern hemisphere of Saturn's moon. Scientists used data gathered by NASA's Cassini spacecraft during 13 years of exploring Saturn's system to make detailed images of the icy moon. New composite images provide strong evidence that the northern hemisphere of the moon has been resurfaced with ice from its interior. Now, to explain this article, like the other one, scientists in their search for possible life, either presently or in the past, on planets or the moons of planets, often look for water, whether that water is in liquid form or in ice form. Since these are very cold planets and moons, it's usually in ice form. But the presence of ice on a planet could mean that that planet harbored life at one time, because the number one ingredient on our planet for life is water. That is where all life originated, here on this planet. On to our next story from space.com. It is estimated that melting ice sheets will add over 15 inches to global sea level rise by the year 2100. And that concludes the space news for today. In technology news from Tech Radar, Microsoft has gotten rid of a Windows 10 update that had been slowing down PCs. The update, which is often installed automatically, has been replaced by a new update. So if your computer seemed to be running slower recently, then hopefully the new update will help speed things up. From BRG.com, Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook may have a plan to try to compete with the iPhone. The iPhone is one of the most popular and iconic devices ever made and continues to be Apple's most important product. But there will come a time when a different type of device might replace the iPhone and smartphones in general. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg alluded to such a future in an interview with a YouTube interviewer, where the two discussed Facebook's foray into virtual reality and augmented reality. While Zuckerberg was careful not to criticize Apple or the iPhone openly, he did hint that the future of communications might involve things that do not have physical screens, but involve things like virtual and augmented reality, and he made no secret of the fact that Facebook plans to compete in that market. From Gizmodo, Amazon's fall hardware debut is set for September 24th, which is this Thursday. Although Amazon's keeping tight-lipped on what we can expect to see, it has historically used these events to unveil updated gadgets in its Echo line and highlighted developments with its voice service assistant, Alexa. Its 2019 presentation showed off a whopping 14 new devices, many of which went on to become holiday gift-giving favorites. And that is today's news from the world of technology. From the world of business, the Wall Street Journal reports that Americans want homes, but there have rarely been fewer for sale. Buyers are rushing to get more living space as the pandemic continues, but many potential sellers are keeping their homes off the market, resulting in the worst drought on record of previously owned homes. The Journal also reports that college town economies are suffering as students avoid bars and tailgating. From National Public Radio, how the pandemic is widening the racial wealth gap. The coronavirus has affected most Americans, but NPR's latest news poll shows Black, Latino, and Native American households are hardest hit by the financial impact of the crisis. And those are your business headlines for today. In health news, the Washington Post reports the CDC says coronavirus is airborne and spreading by aerosols and warns of poorly ventilated spaces. Quote, there is growing evidence that droplets and airborne particles can remain suspended in the air and be breathed by others in travel distances beyond 6 feet, for example, during choir practice in restaurants or in fitness classes, unquote. The agency reported also that, quote, in general, indoor environments without good ventilation increase risk, unquote. From Healthline.com, why poor sleep can lead to weight gain. Researchers say poor sleep patterns can lead to weight gain. They say that extra weight can lead to health issues such as high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and coronary artery disease. Researchers say caffeine and alcohol intake can contribute to poor sleep as well. They recommend avoiding these substances and setting a regular bedtime and wake-up time while making sure that the bedroom is primarily used for sleep. From ScienceDaily.com, front of package nutrition labels improved nutrition quality. A new study analyzing 16 years of data on tens of thousands of products finds that the adoption of nutrition data on the front of package labels is associated with improved nutritional content for those foods and their competitors. From WebMD.com, colleges are already canceling spring break. Several colleges and universities have amended their schedules for next semester, already scrapping plans for spring break because of coronavirus concerns. More higher education institutions are joining that list, according to a report done by ABC News. And those are your health headlines. Moving on to world news, CNN reports Australia's coronavirus lockdown strategy worked. Could this be a model for the U.S.? When Daniel Andrews, Premier of Australian state of Victoria, declared a lockdown over the coronavirus, some detractors on the right labeled him a dictator. On Sunday, Victoria recorded just 11 new coronavirus cases, down from over 670 at the height of the most recent outbreak last month. Next week, Melbourne will begin lifting some restrictions if new cases remain below an average of 50 per day. A nightly curfew is slated to remain in effect until October 26th. Also from CNN, how it all went wrong again in Europe as second wave grips continent. Europe is now in the middle of a second coronavirus wave as it moves into winter, raising questions over what went wrong. Daily case numbers in the European Union and the United Kingdom this week reached record highs. The World Health Organization has suggested the increase could be partly due to the relaxation measures and people dropping their guard. The evidence indicates young people are driving the second surge in Europe. From National Public Radio, in Tasmania there is a mission to rescue 270 stranded whales. Along the western coast of Tasmania, marine conservationists are gathering to conduct a massive operation, the rescue of some 270 pilot whales that have been stranded on sandbars. Tasmania is an island of Australia located about 150 miles south of the mainland. Also from NPR, the Taj Mahal reopens in India for the first time in 6 months. Visitors are capped at 5,000 a day. Everyone must wear a mask and have their temperature taken. Tickets are digital. Selfies are allowed, but no group photos. And please do not touch the gleaming white marble. And those are your world headlines. As always, we end our broadcast with a look at what we call happy news. These are headlines from across the country of people doing good. And in our happy news headlines today, from Orlando, Florida, a teenager starts an organization to help immigrant students make the most out of the American dream. 25% of U.S. children are children of immigrants or refugees, and there are 20 million children in the U.S. with at least one immigrant parent. These children are more likely to struggle in school and are more likely to live in poverty, with possible roadblocks along the path to reaching their potential. Now, one young woman is working to change that by starting an organization to prepare kids to make the most out of their American dream. 16-year-old Alexis Dorman founded Career Aid for Young Immigrants and Refugees, or CAFYIR, which can be found at cafyir.org. Dorman put in thousands of hours developing a curriculum focused on elementary-aged immigrants. Her pilot program is already seeing great results. From Montgomery County, Maryland, a Montgomery County teacher says that, quote, "We are all in this together," unquote, as she fills bags to help feed families. Margaret Norris started teaching 33 years ago and said that this year looks very different than any other as they begin the school year virtually. Norris explains, quote, "I tell my students our number one job is to keep you safe. As the pandemic has gone on and on and on, that job has switched from keeping you safe to keeping you fed and safe," unquote. In mid-March, when the pandemic started, Norris began an effort to provide students' families with food. Norris said, quote, "We knew right away that we had to help. The county does a great job of providing breakfast and lunch for the kids, and we wanted food for the families. We wanted food so the adults in the family could cook a meal. We wanted them to eat together and provide a steady source of food so the children would not need to be afraid of whether there was food for everyone to eat," unquote. With the help of the community, Norris is now filling enough bags to feed between 100 and 150 families every week. From Dallas, Texas, a child's powerful speech turns into a campaign of kindness. When Carrie Jean's son, 9-year-old Orion, wanted to enter a national kindness speech contest sponsored by the Think Kindness organization, Carrie said, "You can't win if you don't enter." But the speech was due the next day, so Orion went to work and wrote his speech, then recorded it and entered it in the contest. Weeks later, they found out Orion was a top 20 finalist in the nationwide contest and that he was being paired with a speech coach for the final round of the contest. He worked with a speech coach to perfect his speech. The final speech was submitted, and America was asked to vote for the winner. Orion explains, quote, "I basically just wanted to encourage everyone to go out and do an act of kindness because in this day and age, it's something everybody needs," unquote. His powerful speech got the most votes, and Orion was crowned the winner of the contest. As part of the contest, the winners are given a cash prize and must create a kindness project. Orion rose to the challenge saying, quote, "Of course, I told everyone in my speech to go do an act of kindness, and the best way to do that is to lead by example. So I decided, why don't we just start a series of events," unquote. The first project was the Race to Kindness, where they were racing to get 500 toys for children in hospitals. Orion used his cash prize and asked for donations and was able to surpass his original goal. He was able to buy and donate 619 toys to children in hospitals. Quote, "I felt great knowing that something that started small was able to put a smile on a child's face," unquote. When asked who taught him about kindness, Orion said, quote, "I definitely learned some of it from how I was raised and how my parents always taught me to be kind and respectful because it's a small way to make a change in the world," unquote. Here is the recording of Orion's original speech.
The question is, how can kindness change a nation? The difficult situations impacting our world have shown us that kindness is more important now than ever before. We've heard about the families hurting from this pandemic, communities suffering from injustice, and people being over virtual learning. This has all shown us we could really use a big hug right now. And that's just it. Kindness is like spreading hugs around the world to those who need it and those who may not know they need it. The act could be something small, but in the end, make a big difference to the person receiving it. You could hold a drive-up bake sale and donate the proceeds to a local food bank, or leave flowers on a neighbor's doorstep with a nice note to let them know they are special, send a letter to an essential worker thanking them for their hard work, or even something as simple as asking your parents how you can help out around the house can go a long way. The thing is, kindness is a virtue we can all possess if we are willing to. So why not start today? Because right now, it's what we need more than ever. To keep hope, to show love. And that love might be the hug someone needs to brighten up their day. So, what's stopping you? Join me in the race of kindness. The best part is, everybody wins. So start now, and I'll be the first one to cheer you on.
And that is your news for September 21st, 2020. Have a great day.